ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदां।
Swapadantikam
वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं
Shri Guru Shri Adha
श्रीयुतापदकमलं
Padakam Shri
वैष्णवांश्च
Namaskar
श्रीरूपं
Shri Rupa
साग्रजातं
Advaita
सहगना
Ragana Raganatam Tam Tam
सजीवं
Jiva
साद्वैतं
Sadvaitam
सावधूतं
Savadhutam
परिजना सा
Parikam Paritam
कृष्णचैतन्यदेव
Chaitanya Devam
श्रीराधा
Shri Radha Krishna
कृष्णपाद
Pada
सहगना ललिता
Ragam Shantam
श्रीविशाखावितांश्च
Vitamscha
हे कृष्णा करुणा
Guru Sindhu
दीनबन्धु
Dinabandhu
जगत्पते
Jagatpate
गोपेश
Gopi
गोपिका
Gopika
कान्ता राधा कान्ता
Arakanta Namaste
तप्त
Tapta
काञ्चन गौराङ्गी
Gaurange
राधे
Radhe
वृन्दावनेश्वरी
Vrindavaneshwari
वृषभानु
Vishnu
सुते देवी
Sutadevi
प्रणमामि
Pranamami Hari
हरि
Priye
वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा
Apaturibrashta
सिन्धुभैव च
Vacha
तानां
Patita
पावनेभ्यो
Vanebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य
Chaitanya
प्रभु
Prabhu Nityananda
नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत
Shri Advaita Gadadhara
गदाधार श्रीवासादि
Srivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा
Hare Krishna
कृष्ण कृष्णा
Krishna
हरे
Krishna
हरे
Hare Hare
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama
राम राम
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody who have joined the group and are about to join. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 2, Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is the answers by citing the Lord's version. And the text for today, Prabhuji, is text 19, 20, 21, 22. So over to you, Prabhuji.
19 also, or beginning with 20?
20, beginning with 20.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today's text, beginning with number 20 of chapter 9. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Payaham Toshita Samyag Veda Garbha Shishikshaya Chiram Vilitena Tapasa Tustosha Kuta Yogina. And the word for word, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the all-beautiful personality of Godhead said, Twaya, by you, Aham, I am, Toshitaha, pleased, Samyak, complete, Veda Garbha, impregnated with the Vedas, Sri Shikshaya, for creating, Shiram, for a long time, Britena, accumulated, Tapasa, by penance, Dutosha, very hard to please, Kuta Yoginam, for the pseudo-mystics. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The beautiful personality of Godhead addressed Lord Brahma. O Brahma, impregnated with the Vedas, I am very much pleased with your long accumulated penance with desire for creation. Hardly am I pleased with the pseudo-mystics. Purport. There are two kinds of penance, one for sense gratification and the other for self-realization. There are many pseudo-mystics who undergo severe penances for their own satisfaction, and there are others who undergo severe penances for the satisfaction of the senses of the Lord. But penances like those undertaken to discover nuclear weapons will never satisfy the Lord. By nature's own way, everyone has to meet death, and if such a process of death is accelerated by anyone's penances, there is no satisfaction for the Lord. The Lord wants every one of his parts and parcels to attain eternal life and bliss by coming home to Godhead, and the whole material creation is meant for that objective. Brahma underwent severe penances for that purpose, namely to regulate the process of creation so that the Lord may be satisfied. Therefore, the Lord was very much pleased with him, and for this Brahma was impregnated with Vedic knowledge. The ultimate purpose of Vedic knowledge is to know the Lord and not to misuse the knowledge for any other purposes. Those who do not utilize Vedic knowledge for that purpose are known as Kuta yogis, or pseudo-transcendentalists, who spoil their lives with ulterior motives. Any questions or comments about that? Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that some people use the knowledge of yoga for their own selfish purposes and sometimes for negative, destructive purposes. And that is not the proper use of the Vedic knowledge. Text 21. Varamvaraya Bhadram Te Varesham Ma Vipanchitam Ramantreya Harishamaha Punshama Darshanavati. Translation. I wish you good luck, O Brahma. You may ask for me, the giver of all benediction, all that you may desire. You may know that the ultimate benediction as a result of all penances is to see me by realization. Someone else can read the purport?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I can read the purport. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Gita.
The ultimate realization of the supreme truth is knowing and seeing face to face the personality of Godhead. Realization of impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma features of the personality of Godhead is not ultimate realization. When one realizes the Supreme Lord, one does not struggle hard to perform such penances. The next stage of life is to discharge devotional service to the Lord, just to satisfy Him. In other words, one who has realized and seen the Supreme Lord has attained all perfection because everything is included in that highest perfectional stage. The impersonalists and pseudo-mystics, however, cannot reach this stage. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Prabhuji, this realization of Paramatma feature of the personality of Godhead, that's not the ultimate realization. But we start with that, isn't it?
Yes. Just as we begin mathematics with adding and subtracting, not with algebra or geometry. Yeah. And Srila Prabhupada puts it very simply for us then. The ultimate realization is realization of the personality of Godhead, and then to engage in loving service. Just to know that our Father exists is something, but there's much more than that. Text 22. Manisitanubhavoyan mamaloka valokanam yadupashucha rahasi jakarta palamam tapaha. Translation. The highest perfectional ingenuity is the personal perception of my abode, and this has been possible because of your submissive attitude in the performance of severe penance according to my order. Purport. The highest perfectional stage of life is to know the Lord by actual perception, by the grace of the Lord. This can be attained by everyone who is willing to discharge the acts of devotional service to the Lord as enjoined in the revealed scriptures that are standard and accepted by the bona fide acharyas, spiritual masters. For example, the Bhagavad Gita is the approved Vedic literature accepted by all the great acharyas such as Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Chaitanya, Vishwanath, Baladev, Siddhanta Saraswati, and many others. In that Bhagavad Gita, the personality of God, Sri Krishna, asks that one always be mindful of him, always be his devotees, always worship him only, and always bow down before the Lord. And by doing so, one is sure to go back home, back to Godhead without any doubt. In other places also, the same order is there, that one give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto the Lord without hesitation. And the Lord will give such a devotee all protection. These are the secrets of attaining the highest perfectional stage. Lord Brahma exactly followed these principles without any superiority complex, and thus he attained the highest perfectional stage of experiencing the abode of the Lord and the Lord himself with all his paraphernalia. Impersonal realization of the effulgence of the Lord's body is not the highest perfectional stage, nor is the stage of Paramatma realization. The word manishita is significant. Everyone is falsely or factually proud of his so-called learning, but the Lord says that the highest perfectional stage of learning is to know him and his abode, devoid of all illusion. Om Jnana-timirandasya Tinangana Shalakaya Chakshur Anmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurudeva. Although I was born in the darkness of ignorance, my eyes were opened by the transcendental mercy of my spiritual master. So this is our process, of course, to have our eyes opened. Om Jnana Timirandasya. With the torchlight of transcendental knowledge, we don't know why we are suffering in this world. We don't really know why we are here. We don't even really know who we are. Um, we think we know we are. We learn, we take on a certain identity, isn't it? We're told you are so and so by our parents. This is your name. This is our family surname. We are the Patels. Uh, and this is your grandfather. These are your aunts. This is where our family was from originally. And there's a whole identity, whatever it may be, African or French, Ethiopian, Argentinian, whatever it is, we're born into a particular family and we take on an identity. And we do our best to live our life. Uh, Usually there are we have relationships with our parents and obligations to them, obedient obligations and feelings of love for them and duty, and to the country and to our friends. And in this way, we live the best we can. We see in human life, um, there's the usual format of eating and sleeping and enjoying life in different ways, developing relationships, marriage, working, being responsible for the family. This is the usual flow of human life. According to different cultures, it happens in different ways. So many different cultures, thousands of languages, and uh, so many different cuisines, different ways of cooking and eating in different countries. Uh, and then we have science. We have the researchers, people who try and understand how things work. And we learn from teachers, we learn the mathematics, and history, sociology, anthropology. Uh, and we learn science, the laws of gravity, the laws of physics, and there's different ideas where we come from and why we're here, especially in the West. The idea that we have evolved, that we are originally we all there was just water, just water on this planet. That way, actually, we can step back. I mean, there was a huge, somehow big explosion and extremely hot, maybe hotter than the sun, very hot. All this stuff, like a volcano exploding, exploding into space, and gradually it cooled. And the nature of matter is that it attracts other particles, and they came together, and you have big clumps of matter, uh, planets, stars. And somehow we have this Earth, and it cooled, and they don't know where water comes from, but somehow there's water. They actually don't. If you look, if you study where water comes from, there's different ideas, but there's nothing conclusive where all the water of the oceans came from. Really, there isn't. They don't know for sure. And then somehow in these oceans, the idea is very hot and electricity from lightning and things, and somehow little tiny little tiny things, cells appeared, and eventually what they call amoeba, little tiny one-celled animals. Just like our body, this human body has trillions of cells. So one cell, this tiny little creature. And somehow over time, this is the idea, actually, that this tiny little one protozoa, it changed. And somehow it became multi-celled, and then we had seaweed. Really. I I don't mean to laugh, but in the big picture of things, it sounds kind of funny that originally that you and I we evolved from seaweed, that stuff that floats in the ocean. No, really, that is that we originally came from flowers and plants, not monkeys. And way, way before monkeys and armadillos and dinosaurs, there were flowers and maybe not flowers, just plants. And somehow by chance, somehow they changed into little tiny, what do they call them? Little things that swim in the water, little worms, sea anemone, and then somehow gradually changing into frogs, snakes, somehow from seaweed we get this human body eventually. It's so ridiculous. And with broad, what they call broad brushstrokes, the idea that over billions of years. Oh yeah, okay, well yeah, I guess so. Over billions of years. Maybe, I mean that, billions of years, that's a long time. But actually, if you look into it, and it can be looked into these days, uh, I'm sure most of us are familiar that the growth of this body, all bodies, any body, it doesn't matter whether it's a worm or a chimpanzee, the growth of the body, it's controlled by this, what do they call it? DNA, the uh, the control software. That's how they describe it, control software. And because the body, this machine is made of there's proteins, and especially proteins. From proteins, there's all types of proteins and hormones and enzymes. And this DNA, which is extremely tiny, it is the little tiny DNA. It is billions of an inch, or billions of a what's the yard? A meter, billions of a meter. Yes, in size. I mean, if you took a meter and you divide it into a billion parts, maybe 40 of those is the DNA. It's just so tiny, extremely tiny. And this DNA, which is a string of sophisticated proteins, uh, it creates other proteins. And it's a very sophisticated kind of factory, the DNA. It sends messages uh, carried by certain enzymes, which are then decoded by some other apparatus. And then these proteins are formed, all kinds of different hormones and enzymes, and all of that is required for the growth of the body. Any body, like an amoeba or an E. coli bacteria. I think the E. coli has a thousand cells, or does it have 1,000 genes? I think 1,000 genes, but it's very tiny. But even for such a tiny thing, it has to be constructed. And they don't know how the constructing machinery came to be. They don't. It's called RNA and DNA. And there's big debates. Which came first? Did the DNA come first? Did the RNA come first? In the big soup of the ocean 4 billion years ago. They don't know for sure. And there's no scientific laboratory that's been able to recreate any of the ATIS or even create DNA. And there's no idea how it could be done right now. But there's some ideas. Theory, guesses. What do you call them? Guesses. So here we are in 2024, and for the past 150 years, this is what has been taught, especially in the West, in the schools, that uh, somehow by chance this Earth came to be, and somehow there's life, but really no one knows. No one really knows for sure, and that's one reason there's so much anxiety in this, because we don't really know for sure. I mean, some people they can give their complete faith to the scientific idea, and they can rest their faith in that. Um, but there's many people who appreciate that we don't know for sure who we are, why we're here, what this world is, and why am I suffering so much? Why is there so many difficulties? So we accept that there is someone who does know, who is the creator of all existence. We accept that there is a creator. We don't believe things come from nothing. We don't experience that in our everyday life. And uh, so we have the theists and we have the atheists. The atheists deny that there's a supreme intelligence or any kind of intelligence behind existence. And the theist does accept the devotee. So we have the devotees and the non-devotees. So the non-devotees are described in the Vedic scriptures and other scriptures as rebellious children, rebellious souls, angry, hateful, resentful, just personalities. And the devotees are different, as Lord Krishna explains in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The demoniac um, are just engaged in ignorant activities, and their ignorant activities produce more ignorance and more darkness. They're going down. And we see people trying to be happy doing things that are obviously unhealthy and self-destructive. Whereas the devotees are um, leaning towards goodness and trying to be uh, led by light and led by knowledge and doing the right thing at the right time and accepting the existence of God. So, Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyanangana Shalakaya Chakshur Anmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So if we're in darkness, if we're in a cave, then someone has to come and help us. Someone has to bring light into the cave so that we can see. And this is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who cares for us very much, as Srila Prabhupada uh, points out again and again, and always in the first purport. The Lord wants every one of his parts and parcels to attain eternal life and bliss by coming home back to Godhead. Um, so this is part of the darkness, um, not knowing why we're suffering, sometimes blaming God for our suffering, not understanding. So the first step in becoming free of any kind of disease is to understand, is to destroy the cause of the disease. So that process is this devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada is um, explaining to us, the Srimad Bhagavatam is explaining to us that this realization of Krishna, this realization of devotion to Krishna is the goal of human life. And Srila Prabhupada points out, it is the purpose of this whole creation. Uh, says here, the Lord wants every one of his parts and parcels to attain eternal life, and the whole material creation is meant for that objective. So we are very, very, very fortunate, you and I, and all of us uh, who have the great fortune of coming in touch with Krishna and this Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya and other devotees of other religions. Of course, we're not the only devotees of God. There are so many people in the world who, uh, to one degree or the other, um, accept the existence of Krishna. But we are, because of our past life efforts, usually, we are continuing to make progress in the path of light. And it's so precious, isn't it? Um, and requires that we associate together very closely, um, because there is so much darkness all around us that we must, as Srila Prabhupada gave as one of the 7 principles of ISKCON, so one of the principles of ISKCON is to bring the members of the society nearer together, closer together, and nearer to Krishna. We must stay close to light. We want to stay away from darkness and people who are addicted to darkness. We want to associate as much as possible with the spiritual energy of Krishna. So what are some of the ways that we can associate with the spiritual energy? How can we remain in touch? What are some of the ways, the main ways to stay electrified, spiritualized? Anyone? Chanting Hare Krishna? Is that one? Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevala. Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatir Anuta. The main way. Because what is that? Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Purna Shruta Nitya Mukta. Vinatvam Namino. Because the divine names of Krishna and topics about Krishna are Krishna. So, Japa and Kirtan and Bhajan, they are our main, in the age of Kali, our main way of awakening and remaining awake. And what else? What other channels are there?
Association of devotees, reading the Shastras.
Yes. The deities, the Archavigraha, the deity seva, very, very important. Even if we do not have deities, at least every day we can see at the temple or on the internet. Very, very important to spend time every day seeing the Archavigraha form of Krishna, to impress on our mind the form of Krishna. Otherwise, how will we remember? And associating with devotees, which means associating with those who are talking about Krishna and are interested in Krishna. And especially we are advised to associate amongst ourselves and not to avoid associating with the Uttama Adhikaris. And where can we find the association of Uttama Adhikari, the most topmost devotees? If we have any doubt, where are we sure to find their company? Who can say?
So the physical one would be probably at the temple, but the Shastras have all the acharyas, so we can
Yes,
read about them.
yes. There is no lack of pure devotees, most pure devotees, within Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. That is true. So I wanted to touch base on something that all of this is all well and good. So we're speaking about staying in touch with the spiritual energy, staying secure. So Srila Prabhupada has given us from Srila Rupa Goswami the Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction, only 11 or 12 verses, not very many. But Srila Prabhupada writes that if one follows this, then one's success is guaranteed. That's pretty good. Only 11 or 12 verses. So verse 2 and 3. So Srila Rupa Goswami says, one's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over endeavoring for mundane things that are difficult to have, talking unnecessarily about mundane things, practicing the rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and working whimsically. 5, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. So these 6 things uh, can spoil our progress, cause us to fall away. And Srila Prabhupada goes through them. Uh, Collecting and eating more than necessary causes unnecessary endeavor. So we don't want to be overly busy with uh, our daily life that we don't cultivate. We don't hear about Krishna, and we miss bhajan and kirtan and worship of the deity. We want to keep our life as simple as possible, easy. Then another impediment is talking about mundane things. Why is that an issue? Because whatever we talk about, we think about. If we talk about Krishna conscious subjects, that will help us to remember Krishna. If we talk about other things, then we'll remember that. Then, uh, associating with people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and that's common sense, especially if we have close, intimate relationships, friends, very close friends who are not interested in Krishna. Uh, it can be a difficulty because we will want to do what they're doing, or we will be influenced by them, which doesn't mean that we can't have friends and be friendly with people, but we should try to have close friendships with uh, other devotees who are interested in going back to Godhead, who are interested in Krishna. Very, very important. And of course, uh, this is interesting. Following the rules without just for the sake of following them, without the purpose in our mind of increasing our love for Krishna, our attachment for Krishna, or uh, not following the different uh, principles, breaking the regular principles, not chanting, not reading. All these things can ruin, destroy uh, the opportunity to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. And then the positive side is that there are 6 principles that are favorable. 1, being enthusiastic. 2, having confidence. 3, being patient. 4, acting according to the regulative principles. 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees. 6, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So we ask for this, isn't it? We wish, we hope, oh, I want to be successful. So here, Srila Prabhupada is handing it to us. He is putting it in our hand. You do these 6 things, and your success will be undoubtedly assured. Being enthusiastic, having confidence, being patient, following the basic principles, giving up the association of non-devotees, and following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. So Srila Prabhupada writes here, one should accept this opportunity to return home back to Godhead very enthusiastically. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful. Even in the material world, one has to be very enthusiastic in a particular field to become successful. A student, businessman, artist, or anyone else who wants success must be enthusiastic. Uh, so similarly, one has to be very enthusiastic in devotion. So then, well, how can I become enthusiastic? That's right. That would be a good question. All right. I agree. Sounds good to me. But how do I get it? So Srila Prabhupada writes in different places that we get that enthusiasm by associating with other people who are enthusiastic. Just like I've been to these meetings where insurance companies are trying to sign up people to be sales agents. So they always bring the top performers. Oh, this one did 300,000 pounds last year. This one did 100,000 pounds. And they're talking about how much money one can make. And there's a lot of excitement, and there's dozens of people there, and they're telling their stories, and there's friendships. And so we get enthusiasm. Oh, this person did that. I can do it too. So same thing. So we associate with other devotees at the temple directly or indirectly, and through uh, the scriptures like Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj, so many personalities who attain success by serving Krishna, performing devotional activities. And uh, in our contemporary times, there are so many enthusiastic, uh, fixed up, steady devotees within our society that we can become enthused by. So, so enthusiasm. And then the other thing is by following the principles. Srila Prabhupada said, if you follow the principles, you get enthusiasm, which is very true. Uh, we will get power. We will get inner power to practice by following. Just like if we sleep 9, 10 hours a day, we'll become quite dull-headed. We will lose enthusiasm. So such a simple thing, such as sleeping as much as required, but not too much, and not eating too much, and just these simple things can help us remain uh, lively. And of course, the morning program of devotion to Krishna and devotion to the spiritual master. These things are so important. Just like when you have a fire, you light the fire with wood. You don't just walk away and then it's going to be there 4 hours later. You have to keep putting the fire, right? You have to keep putting the coals, keep putting the sticks. So the Mangal Arti and the Guru Puja and our japa, they're putting the sticks. Every day reading or hearing a lecture or something, they're just putting the sticks, makes it grow big. Then enthusiasm. And then Srila Prabhupada talks about uh, these activities must be executed with patience. So he says one should not be impatient. And he gives the example that a newly married girl may want to have a child, but she cannot expect to have it the next day after the marriage. Everything has to become settled in the household and properly there before bringing a child into the world. But in due course of time, the child will come. And this is true for anything that, we go to college, we don't get the degree after 6 months. It takes 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then you work, just you're enthusiastic and you do your studies. And sometimes you feel like giving up, but you keep going. And then you get it eventually. So patience. So we have to have enthusiasm that I will go back to Godhead. I will awaken my Krishna consciousness by following this process, but it's not going to be tomorrow or the next day. And then also, Srila Prabhupada says confidence. So we have enthusiasm and we have patience, but also confidence that I will be successful. Other people have gotten the college degree. Why should I not? All I have to do is keep my grades, and eventually I will receive my diploma. So this is called confidence. And also that Krishna will help me. I'm not alone. I don't, this is a very important part of confidence that on my own, I can never do this. That's completely correct. If we think, I can't do this, that's right. We can't, not by ourselves. But with the help of Krishna, we can. And because we have Krishna in our corner, then we'll be successful. Sometimes we feel, oh, this is too hard. No, that's right. That's called self-realization. That's true. We should not think, oh, I'm thinking that I can't do it. No, that's you are awake at the steering wheel. It's true. We can't do it by ourselves, not completely. So when we feel like that, then the next thing is, oh, well, I better ask Krishna for help. It's not the end of the world. Even it may feel like the end of the world. When it feels like it's the end of our life, that's the time to reach out to Krishna. And then we'll realize, oh, it's not the end of my life because Krishna will help me get through this. And then we get realization that, oh, two, three, four times I thought I was finished. But actually, I prayed to Krishna and somehow things turned. And that's what's going to happen for the rest of my life. Is that there'll be different challenges, different difficulties, and I will pray to Krishna and help will come, and eventually I will go back to Godhead. So this is confidence. So then Srila Prabhupada says that, but one should not be idle, just expecting everything will just happen, but one has to follow the process carefully. Just like, yeah, anyone can get a degree, more or less, but you have to study and you have to get the grades and you have to go to class, etc. So we have to follow the basic principles. So then Srila Prabhupada speaks about giving up the association of non-devotees, which is pretty clear. Uh, then Srila Prabhupada says, if one strictly follows the advice given in this verse by Srila Rupa Goswami, one is sure to advance in devotional service. Uh, and then he says, uh, in this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati remarks that the cultivation of knowledge by philosophy, the collection of mundane opulence, and the desire for yoga siddhis, material perfections, are all contrary to the principle of devotion. One has to become thoroughly callous to such non-permanent activities and turn his attention instead to the regular principles of devotional service. So this speaking about being very focused on where we're going and what we're doing, having a very clear goal. Uh, so how do we get that? By associating with people who do have a very clear, confident, enthusiastic desire to love Krishna and go back to Godhead. We associate, and association, what are some of the different ways that we can associate with people? Is associating with someone just we visit them in their flat or they come to visit us? Is that the only way that we associate? What do you think? What are some different ways that we can associate with other people?
And these days, there are lots of ways to associate with people by telephone calls, by messages, by Zoom classes that we do right now, besides the physical association, meeting them outside, meeting them for lunch, or um, uh, meeting them for
Yeah,
an activity. Uh,
associating with people. We social. We have a social life, and we hear about what other people are doing and what they're feeling through radio, songs, people singing songs about life, sharing their heart's feelings, right? Music is very powerful. The television and movies, associating with other people's thoughts and feelings and opinions. And of course, reading material, newspapers, and the internet, websites. That's probably the biggest nowadays is the internet. We associate with other people through the internet. So whether that's helpful or not is something for us to keep in mind. Is this helping me to be enthused or is it not? And it can be so subtle, we may not know what's happening, but we associate with people who are in spiritual consciousness. Um, uh, just like when you water a plant, so we have the water, spiritual water, it waters our spiritual intelligence and it waters our spiritual enthusiasm and love more than anything, our love, our love for Krishna, our love for the spiritual side. And then if we associate with people who are in mundane consciousness, bodily consciousness, whose values and opinions and thoughts and feelings and what they're doing is motivated by the materialistic, non-spiritual conception of life, it rubs off on us because we have that in our heart. We have a long history of thinking ourselves to be the body, of making choices based upon just the temporary world. So without even realizing, sometimes we can spend time with people who are not in spiritual consciousness. And it has it's not helpful. We may not even realize. So therefore, it's so important to regularly associate with uh, spiritually advanced people, certainly equals, and even more so, those who are more advanced than ourselves, so that we can be reminded. Uh, Even we associate with devotees who are our equal friends. It depends how advanced both of us are. Uh, the idea of associating with the Uttamadhikaris and the pure devotees with the spiritual master is that for sure we will be reminded uh, of the ideals uh, and the best way of thinking and the highest values. I think that's the highest values. What is most valuable? Because amongst ourselves as equals, depending on how advanced we both are, or the group of us are, our values may not be as high as they should be. You see, someone, someone has to be there who, is the very, very Krishna conscious person. And we allow ourselves to associate and be reminded, even if we don't like it. Because when we have our attachments and sometimes to associate with a more advanced devotee, uh, our mind may not want to do it because we're reminded that I really shouldn't be doing this or I really should be doing that. So we have to push ourselves sometimes. The mind is very tricky, like a monkey, and it will try to avoid because that is the self-destructive nature of the mind, that it wants to remain doing the thing which is not the right thing. I remember as a brahmachari, long time ago, uh, when I was cooking in the kitchen for Krishna, I would listen to tapes, and I noticed there were certain lectures by certain sannyasis I didn't want to listen to. And I realized, what was happening. And so the one that I didn't want to listen to, that's the one I listened to because I knew, oh, I know what's going on here. So, it is just like, anything difficult. You have to push yourself. I don't want to do the exercise, but I have to. So we push ourselves. That's the adult. That is a mature adult. A little uncomfortable for a higher purpose. So Krishna, of course, Krishna sees that. Oh, you're making, even you don't want to do it, you're doing, you'd rather go sleep, but you're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, or you're going to the class, or whatever it is. Krishna sees our sacrifice, and that's our love. That's our love. And he will reciprocate with us very much, even by little things. We're chanting our japa, and I want to go sleep. I want to go sleep. No, two more rounds, then I'll go. I must get this done for Krishna. And Krishna sees that. Oh, very good. And he will reward us. Just like a teacher. I don't know if any of you have experience in school. Most teachers, when they have a student who's enthusiastic, they really like it. Like, oh, wow, here's one who wants to learn. And they give more attention, isn't it? They give a little bit more attention. So Krishna's the same way. Oh, you want to make it there? Oh, I will help you. You see. Of course, Krishna's helping everyone, but yetamam prapadyante. So it's kind of exciting that Krishna will reciprocate more by our effort. He's there. He's watching. And this is why sometimes devotees fall away, because they make the wrong choice 2, 3, 4 times. And Krishna says, oh, you think you really could enjoy doing that? Well, I'll let you do that. You can leave the temple, you can leave devotion, and you can smoke the ganja for 3 years and see if you like it. And then Krishna will bring the person back. We don't want to do that. We want to do the positive side. So we'll stop here. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for today's session and really important positives and negatives that will help our progress. One question, Prabhuji, is that we all are beginners, at least I speak for myself, and we live with non-devotees. So how do we cannot detach ourselves from there. So what is the way forward?
Well, the advice that I've heard is uh, to to be official, kind of, to not give our hearts. And there's a short little parable that's given of a monkey that was stuck in a tree in the middle of a river, and a crocodile said, "Oh, you get on my back, I'll take you to the other side." So, of course, the crocodile wanted to eat the monkey, and actually wanted to eat the monkey's heart. So the monkey knew this. So he had a plan. So he got on the crocodile's back, and when they were halfway over, the crocodile said, "Well, I'm going to eat you. I want your heart." And the monkey said, "Oh, that's good. Just get me to the other side. I left my heart over there." So the dumb crocodile took him to the other side. So we may associate, but we should not give our heart. Specifically when we reveal our mind and reveal our feelings and talk about what's happening with our feelings, we don't want to go there very. Oh, how was your day? How are your kids? Oh, that's nice. Well, we don't want to talk too much what we're feeling or get too much involved in what they're feeling, because that opens the door for attachment. You don't want to get too attached. And we care, of course, but just don't want to get too thick. That's all. Not complicated, just not too thick. Just keep it light and friendly. And the more advanced we are, we can do that uh, in a normal kind of human way. After all, they are spirit souls, part of Krishna. And the more we see everyone like that, then we can be very personal. How was your operation? How are things going? But not too much. We should, but then we do need someone to talk to. So we have the other side is we must strive to have 1, 2, 3, however many personal relationships with devotees. That's the real thing. Then it won't matter so much. I have my devotee friends. It's when you don't. It's just like in a marriage. If the wife and husband are not feeling emotionally nurtured, then they look elsewhere. But but if it's there, then no one looks elsewhere. It's a simple thing. So we want to have connection to devotees. I think that makes sense.
It does. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Any other questions or comments? I think we've exhausted our time, so we can end the session for today if there are no questions or comments. Pramila Mataji, are you in a position to end the session for today? Hare Krishna. Okay, I can end the session. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for today's session. And let us all chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to glorify Dina Sharana Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchikalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhayeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Dina Sharan Prabhu ki jai. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Thank you for having me today. I wish everyone well.
Thank you
Hare
so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.